guess first things first, with the benefit of a few days to look back on it, how has your squad pulled up from the game against the Knicks? Do you have any injury concerns coming out of it? And more broadly, how have you reflected on their performance?
Yeah, as I said after the game, it was just like a weird sensation that we had with all the days leading into and the players not being able to train and COVID and a lot of fear of will that escalate and I think we managed to put that game behind us now, and we refreshed them a little bit this week. But yeah, we are missing 3 players. We got 1 injury, and we got obviously 2 players with Matildas.
Well, and just moving forward, we were just talking about it with Bubs before. Maybe a little bit of a goalkeeping controversy now. 2 players ready for the number 1. Who starts against the Reds?
Melissa starts against the Reds, of course.
Oh, okay. So there we go. So how far away is Sally from coming into contention?
Sally is probably 1 more week away from putting her hand up. She had some issues with, obviously with her COVID, and she hasn't really recovered as quickly as we hoped. So we had to take a little bit a slower approach with her. She's done her blood test and everything is okay. So she's got now a clear bill of health, and she can now start pushing for number 1 spot.
Is it a case of this is Bub's job to lose, Rado? Are you inclined to start Sally when she comes back, or is it really just a case of why bench Bubs if you're keeping clean sheets like you are?
Mate, you're asking me something what's going to happen in 2 months' time. Look, I don't know. I mean, we need to see how Sally goes, first of all. I mean, with her thumb and all that stuff, and we need to really see how she is, and we're going to slowly introduce her, so she's going to start off the bench, and then we'll see what happens after that. Sally is a very important part of our future. And so is Bubs. So both of them we would love to keep, for many years to come.
And looking ahead to this weekend, you've got to make the trip to South Australia. Wasn't the happiest trip for your side last year when you went there. What do you need to do to get the win this time around?
Look, we just need, obviously, we need to improve our ball control and our passing, and if we can manage that, then I think we're going to be able to control the game much better than what we were against Wellington. I think we had a reasonable good game against Adelaide in round 3, keeping in mind that was the game after losing to Melbourne Victory, so the pressure was on us, and I think we did really well. And now obviously we are a little bit more confident, and I believe that we're going to be able to have a good game and see who comes up on top. And saying that, they have been excellent. Their young girls are playing really good football, and they managed to score a lot of goals. So it's going to be a good game to watch, and hopefully we can get on top of it.
There's playing on Cooper Stadium a very the home field advantage Adelaide sides get from that stadium is well known. How will that potentially affect the game?
I think the home ground advantage is when they play on the NPL field, because that field is not, the grass is not that good. It's like suburban field, and I think coming and playing in the big stadium, I think that is going to even it up for both teams, because you can't hide on that pitch. If your first touch is not good, you can't blame anything else than just your first touch. So I think he's going to come up with who is technically better and who is tactically better on the day.
I'm guessing you'd back your side to be technically better than any opposition when they're on form.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think every coach would say the same. And we had a very good training session today. We're going to have a good training session tomorrow, and we are ready. We are confident, and we are ready to play.
So just on that, Rado, obviously last weekend's performance against Wellington was, perhaps not as convincing as the couple of weeks before that. So you're confident that with this extra week of training, you've kind of brought your level right back to where it was before the COVID break?
Look, it's all about frame of mind, and we were not, our mindset was not right on that day. I don't think that was any tactical problems. It was just mindset, and we worked quite hard on that this week. And if our mindset is correct and good, then we should be able to control the game the way we would like to control. Because we are much better than our showing on the weekend.
And so obviously, we spoke about how things are different this time around with Adelaide. So do you use the last game as kind of any kind of basis on which to build on? Or
that's our reference point, because obviously that is our reference point, because that's when we played, man on man. The girls, they know their opponents. They can view the footage again. They can see what opponents are doing, what their strengths and weaknesses are. So yeah, that is definitely our starting point. But since then, they had some good results as well. The one in Canberra was just, they maybe didn't play as well as they played against us, and maybe they didn't play as well as they played against Perth, but they still managed to get a good win and in a tough place in Canberra. So I think their confidence would be sky high as well. So it's going to be two confident teams clashing, and who knows which way the game will go.
And obviously one of the big changes since last time you played has been now you're missing Winona and Holly due to their Matildas call-up. So how are you going to cover for them? Is that going to be a problem?
Of course, that's going to be a big problem. If you lose two Matildas, and they are blessed. They don't lose anyone, and you can see that Holmes, she's now coming back from hotel quarantine, and first game she was cramping up. I think now she can run out the 90 minutes, so they will be better because of that, and we would be a little bit weaker. But I'm going to back my team, and I'm going to back the strength of our team. So a couple other girls will get opportunity to play, and we'll see how they go. So I'm quite confident that although we can't replace those two, like for like, we're gonna have to replace them with some other strengths of some other players.
And then just lastly from me, the news has recently obviously come out that Adrian Stent has tested positive, and so he won't be present on the weekend for your game. That kind of thing, obviously it's happening all the time and it's been going on for a while. Do you think about that? Does that affect what you're thinking or what you're planning in any way?
Look, I didn't know about his positive test. I just hope that all other players and staff in Adelaide are safe and they don't get COVID, because then we wouldn't be able to play the game. But no, look, they've got great bunch of coaches over there. I don't think he's the only one that can take the game. And once the player cross that white line, it's up to them anyway. So and they got like incentive to play for their coach, who is watching them from TV at home. And if you remember, Patrick Isnobo was injured last season in the finals, and players played for him. That gives them an extra incentive to play well and do something for their coach. So I wouldn't look into that. I think if anything, they're going to be stronger and more determined to be successful.
You mentioned last week that you don't like to think with the squad? Obviously, you've got 2 forced absences through Matildas call-ups. What does losing 2 players like that do to you as a coach and to the team at such a crucial point of the season, given that we're at about the midway mark?
Look, first of all, I'm so proud that they made the national team selection, and you know, I would be very disappointed if they are the 2 that that will have to fly back from Dubai back to Melbourne. I hope that they stay and they have fantastic Asian Cup and they help the team to win the Asian Cup. Regarding their replacement, it's very hard because you know, we haven't got a player of the profile of, you know, of those 2 players. They bring something that, you know, not many other players bring into the team, but the players that are going to replace them will bring some other qualities. So we're going to try to use some other qualities. You know, I mean, Holly's fantastic in making those forward runs. She's very fast. She's very direct. She is, you know, great young player. You know, we haven't got that type of player that can come and replace her, but we got different type of players that could probably cause Adelaide some different problems that they're going to have to solve.
Now, Adelaide, you already mentioned this, they're the only team in the top 4 that hasn't had any Matildas call-ups. You know, Sydney have lost Courtney Vine, Remy Simpson, and Victory have lost Cooney Cross and Courtney Nevin. How do you expect that to change the perspective of the title race, given that, you know, all 4 sides are relatively close in points, you know, with most of the teams having a game in hand on Sydney?
Yeah, you know, I mean, you know, as a coach, you wish that every player can play, and you know, as a coach, you hope that, you know, this is the last season where, you know, we're going to lose 6, 7, 8 players to Matildas, and we're going to have to play through their absentees. And you know, we haven't got a big squads. We've got smaller squads than men's teams. So obviously it is a little bit you know, uneven, to be honest, but it is what it is. You know, we're happy to play. You know, with situation where we are living in, you know, we're just happy to play. How will that affect? You know, God only knows. We have to wait and see. There's another FIFA window mid February. And we're going to lose Matildas and we're going to lose New Zealand International. So we're going to lose maybe 4 or 5 players later in the season. So again, how will that affect us? We just have to wait and see.
You mentioned that you don't want to see going forward, you know, losing players during the season. Like, I guess what, and I know this is looking forward in the future, what would be more important in your perspective, a full home and away season or actually stopping the season for international breaks?
Look, I think, first of all, the most important thing is that we go full-time professional. So these girls, they deserve to be professional football players. They deserve, same as A-League men, to have 12-month program. If we have a 12-month programs, then we have no problems. You know, we can play. We can stop whenever we want. We can play whenever we want, and there wouldn't be any problems. You know, I mean, I'm really happy that, you know, there's so many more double headers on big stadiums now, which is fantastic for women's football. You know, and you know, why couldn't we do that throughout the whole A-League season? You know, why can't we extend women's league as well as men's league? And why can't we stop for FIFA breaks? I think, you know, it makes sense. If someone is not affected, they can play. There can still be some games, but if someone is affected, just stop it for 1 week.
It's interesting that you mentioned the double headers, because there's a lot of fans, particularly within the women's game, that don't like double headers, simply because crowds, generally speaking, don't show up. We've seen a little bit of an increase this year, especially at the Melbourne City and the Melbourne Victory games, where fans are coming out early. But it's been a problem in a lot of areas, and I think back to some games last season where fans were either showing up like for a 5 o'clock and a 7:40 game, fans were showing up at 7:10, or they were showing up for the last 5 minutes of the women's game. They weren't showing up beforehand. And I understand 5 hours is a lot of time to commit to football, but how do you deal with those crowd numbers going forward if doubleheaders are the way forward in your mind?
Look, I'm not saying that we have to play every game. You know, if we go 22 rounds and if we go, you know, couple of 3 or 4 weeks of playoffs, there will be possibilities to play on smaller stadiums. But don't forget that now we are playing, you know, free to air TV, which we haven't done in past. You know, so that is fantastic. You know, that's the right step forward. You know, so I think balance of both, I think would be even, you know, better. I think for clubs to play, you know, a long game on big stadiums, it costs a little bit too much money. So when those two are played one after the other, it's a little bit more affordable for the clubs, and probably that's why it's the reason for that. But for players, I think it's probably better because they're playing on the stadiums. It prepares them for potentially Champions League. It prepares them for young players for Matildas. It prepares everyone for, you know, that next step in their football career. So, you know, looking at not just, you know, support, and our supporters need to come, you know, need to be prepared to come a little bit earlier. Also.